So hi everyone, my name is Dana Saleh وأنا ال Education USA Advisor in Lebanon. We are based at AMIDEAST. Education USA is a series of centers around the world. هو ممول من قبل السفارة الأمريكية ووزارة الخارجية الأمريكية لنساعد كل تلميذ حابب يدرس بأمريكا. How we help is we give free guidance for students. So استشارة مجانية إن كان throughout the 5 steps اللي بدكم تدرسوهم بأمريكا. So لتقدروا تدرسوا بأمريكا هن 5 steps. أول واحدة هي to do the research واللي we're going to talk about that today أكتر شيء. And then is finding the funding يا أما تمويل من عندكم أو تمويل من قبل منحة أو من قبل الجامعة. بعدين completing the application. Later on, once you are selected وبتنقبلوا بالجامعة, we can talk about US visa and how to fill out a US visa, and then preparing for departure. So, Education USA Center, we can help you throughout those 5 steps. We will not do anything on your behalf. So, أنت كتلميذ مسؤوليتك تكون تقدم الطلب وتلاحق طلبك. بس نحن سنتر موجود إذا عندك أي استشارة، أي سؤال ما عم تعرف تجاوبه، أي عقدة، نحن موجودين لنقدر نساعدكم. By the end of the presentation فيكم تحصلوا على رقم تليفوننا والإيميل تبعنا، فيكم تتواصلوا معنا، تاخدوا an appointment one-on-one. We can talk further على كل كيس بحالة لأن كل تلميذ is different. So it's not gonna be one solution لكل التلميذ, and I understand that. So feel free later on to reach out ونحن we can help you as much as possible. Okay. أول شيء بدي أتشكر صادر Legal for actually helping us today to reach out لكلكم. They reach out لنا وسألونا how we can help, and we thought of this basic webinar بالأول about how to apply to the US universities. وإذا شفنا هالقد في تجاوب من قبل التلاميذ نحن we can always do further sessions مع جامعات من أمريكا يكون معنا admission counselors عم يشرحوا لكم عن الجامعات وعن possible scholarships and so on. So this would be just a pilot, and then later on we'll have further webinars inshallah planned for you. Okay. Let me start by asking you if you don't mind if you can share what kind of program you want to pursue in the US. إذا عارفين إذا شو بدكم تعملوا LLM أو JD, if that's an idea. وإذا عارفين شو السبفيلد اللي ممكن تاخذوه كمان. If you can write it in the chat box, that would be really helpful. Okay. So throughout the presentation اليوم حنحكي عن studying in the US وحنحكي عن how and why you're going to study in the US. So the very first question would be ليش أمريكا وليش مش غير أمريكا? So for us as Education USA, we're here to promote studying in the US because the US is the #1 top destination for international students. كل international students بيدرسوا بأمريكا because of the credentials الموجودين. Top universities worldwide are available in the US. So أكيد ليش أمريكا ليش مش غيرها because of the quality of education that America can provide the students. Okay. The other thing is أنتوا كتلميذ ليش بدكم تدرسوا بأمريكا؟ لأنه فيكم تحسنوا الcredentials تبعكم، فيكم تحسنوا the degrees اللي أنتوا عندكم إياها. Also studying in the US بتساعدكم تاخدوا employability skills that would help you get a job بعدين أو get an interview, an internship, and all of that. Also إذا كنتوا عم تدرسوا sometimes it would open further some kind of job opportunities لإلكم. ففي كتير تلاميذ بيروحوا from studying law لأشياء أكتر towards government officials, مراكز بالدولة تقدر تساعدكم إذا أنتوا عندكم the credentials من جامعات أمريكية. All of this would help you advance بعدين as professionals in the law إذا بقيتوا بالlaw أو إذا رحتوا على أي اختصاص تاني. اللي أكيد بتعرفوه واللي فيكم تلاحظوه بجامعات أمريكا إنه they would help you مش بس تفكروا إن بس typically law بس كمان how to mix law with other so interdisciplinary kind of new ideas for you to discuss, for you to think about. So ما تضلكم بس بالtraditional law but how you can mix it with other things whatever is emerging. هلا في كتير fields that are emerging and we're going to talk about that in a bit. So let's start basic. أول شيء إذا بدكم تدرسوا بأمريكا what kind of programs you can are there in the US and أنتوا كstudents مخرجين من لبنان دارسين حقوق بلبنان ورايحين على أمريكا. What are the programs are there وأيهم أحسن لإلكم. كل تلميذ might be different. Some students would prefer to go with a JD, others might go with LLM and all of that. هنحكي عنهم. بس basically بأمريكا ما في Bachelor of Law. So أنتوا أول ما تفوتوا على أمريكا لتدرسوا الباتشلر ما بتدرسوا Bachelor of Law. So for تلاميذ مثلكم already دارسين Bachelor of Law بلبنان already حتتخرجوا بشهادة حقوق بلبنان. It's different. بس بأمريكا أول شهادة as a bachelor degree it will not be law. ما في عندهم Bachelor of Law. Usually it would be any kind of bachelor and then later on you would go for the further degree, the graduate degree بتكون هي بالlaw. So the first degree could be anything from business to economics to political science, anything, even biology. You can do a pre-med track وبعدين ترجعوا تروحوا into law degrees. So أول شهادة بأمريكا the bachelor degree will not be law. So then the first law degree بأمريكا هي JD. JD is a graduate program. So أنتوا بتكونوا already عندكم a bachelor degree that is required and then you apply for a JD. Okay, JD is usually for 3 years and we're going to talk about that in a bit. Okay, the other option is for you to do the LLM. The LLM is usually an advanced degree. So أول شيء كinternational students أنتم هلا دارسين law بلبنان. So أنتم you are foreign law graduates. So you can go and start directly with the LLM. Some students decide لا بده يروح يبلشوا بالJD بعدين بيعملوا ال LLM. Some students بيقولوا no, let me save time, I'll just دغري روح وبلش بال LLM. So it's up to you as a student وحسب انتم شو الcredentials اللي عندكم اياهم, what are your further career goals, شو بدكم تعملوا, where do you want to practice the law بأمريكا. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to Holy in a bit, so that's why ما رح أكمل عليها كتير. بس the other law degrees or the other law programs are the SJD, which is kind of a PhD in law. So هذا البروجرام تلميذ اللي بتعمله بيكون they're pursuing like to go into academia. So إذا أنتم بدكم تكملوا in academia, you want to have kind of an equivalent to a PhD, you would do the SJD. It would take somewhere between 3 to 5 years, and it takes a lot of time for you to أول شيء لازم تعملوا JD إذا كنتوا بأمريكا, بعدين تعملوا LLM, بعدين تعملوا SJD. So it depends أنتوا شو بدكم, if this is something you're interested in or not. But keep in mind, as you go with this track, you're going into academia and you're going into later on teaching and doing research and writing, that this is what is required, okay? And then there are other master's degree in law, and those are for people who don't want to practice law in the US. Those are more for people اللي هن maybe in compliance, or people who are interested in law, بشغلهم خاصهم بالlaw, but they don't want to be lawyers. So those هول degrees ما بيخولوكم to pass the bar, the exam. So هول just for you, that would help you with your whatever you're practicing بشغلكم, for you to get to know more the legal stuff, but you cannot be lawyers under those degrees. Okay? So just for us to start, بس نحكي عن JD عم نحكي عن a degree that the first degree in the US لتكونوا for you to practice law. Okay? After you finish JD, you can start practicing law in the US. Okay? The LLM is Masters of Law. So LLM usually is required. يا أما الأمريكان بيعملوا JD and then LLM for them to go for a specialty. LLM for us as international students, what we do is بنخلص حقوق بلبنان and then we can go and do LLM for us to go and join sometimes the bar or so on. Those are few acronyms that we're going to talk throughout the presentation and I would like you to be familiar with. So حنحكي كمان عن LSAT, which is the Law School Admission Test. حنحكي عنه in a bit, and we're going to talk about the American Bar Association and its ABA. Okay. So before we go with all of this and confuse you with all of those, what we're going to talk about is for you to decide on a law school, is for you first to decide on where you're going to study. If the US is your place, but where exactly is that? عندكم ولاية معينة لأنه عندكم a family member there or someone that you can live with, that might be a consideration. Other students ممكن يقولوا لا, I want a location because of the weather and the health concerns. I don't want to be in a place where it's too snowy or it's too cold or such concerns. Other issues might be, do you want to be in a rural or urban area? Do you want to be close to a place where you might end up getting a job there or all of that? Keep those in mind, okay? Also, the other thing is that you need to think about is later on, once you finish your degree in the US, where do you want to practice? Do you want to come back to Lebanon and practice, or you want to practice in the US? So all of those are things for you to know ahead of time, because this would help you pick the right major and the right program and the right degree for you, okay? So start asking yourself those questions and start writing them down, start thinking about them. And maybe if you don't have the answer, if you're not sure yet, write those down, discuss those with professors or with people you know, people you trust in the community, so that they can give you kind of an insight. Especially anyone who studied in the US will be able to give you their own experience about what was feasible, what wasn't, what worked for them or not, about the legal market in the US and all of that. So keep this in mind, because this is very important for you to know where you're going to practice once you finish and where you're going to be there, like which state, and if that state allows you to sit for the bar or not. So those are all different things that you need to keep in mind, okay? So the very first thing is the accreditation, and this is a factor that you need to consider wherever you're going to go study. As you're studying in Lebanon or you're studying abroad, you want to know if the university is accredited. بلبنان في كم جامعة already بتعرفون أيهم accredited وأيهم لهم الحق يعطوكم degree in law and so on. In the US, it's completely different. So it could be confusing شوي لتلاميذ. So in the US, there are regional accreditations اللي هن by region مثل ما شايفين على ال US map. Each region is different. They have their own set of standards, their own accrediting bodies. So it's completely different. And there is the American Bar Association, which is ABA. ABA would usually accredit all JD programs. So it's sometimes what they usually kind of advise international students who would go with ABA accredited programs, لأنه it would be easier بعدين إذا تخرجت وبدك to sit for the bar or بدك تشتغل, it's accredited nationally on the national level تبع أمريكا كلها سوا, it is accredited. So this could be something, a tip for you to consider if you're not sure exactly where you're gonna practice after you graduate. Maybe if you go with the ABA accreditation, that would be easier for you to get a job بعدين, okay? So قلنا بالأول عن JD, and that's the basic degree, the very first degree for you to practice BUS. However, أنتوا كinternational student you already have a law degree in your home country, يعني أنتوا رايحين من لبنان already عندكم law degree. Maybe JD might not be the right program for you. يمكن تقولوا لا, I don't want to do that. I already have a law degree in my country, okay? But this could be an extra step that you take if you want to work later on in the US. Because if you want to work later on in the US, this would give you the credentials and this would show them that you are actually aware of the American law and you can practice law in the US, okay? So again, it's accredited by ABA and it's the very first degree that you do. And for that, you need a bachelor degree before that. And this is the first graduate level after the bachelor degree, okay? JD in general could be completed within 3 years if you go with a full-time schedule. If you're going with part-time, usually it would take 4 years. But in general, international students would try to do it with 3 years, as you will be on a student visa. And for you to do that and to maintain all of that, you probably would go with a 3-year full-time program, okay? Some students would like to combine the JD with different other programs, like an MBA for you even to gain more credentials in certain discipline, especially if you already have your law degree in Lebanon. So you're kind of going for an extra this might be your extra thing. So it could be a joint degree with an MBA or a joint degree with a Master's of Art in something like in economics or a Master's of Art in anything that might be of interest to you, depending on the specialty you're going to go next. Okay. The next one is the LLM, and this is usually what most international students would go for. The graduate degree, the LLM, would be the first degree that you're gonna do, and if you're gonna do it as an international student, you have to have your first, your bachelor degree in your home country for you to practice. Sorry, someone is saying you can't hear me. Can everyone hear me? Can you please make sure? Is it just an issue with Leia's computer, or everyone, you can hear me? Can someone confirm, please? Okay, good. Thank you. So Leia, I think it might be just your, okay, it's working now for you. Perfect. So again, if you're going to go for your LLM, you need to have a first degree in law in your home country. So مثل ما أنتم هلا خريجين حقوق من لبنان, your bachelor degree, فيكم تروحوا تعملوا LLM بأمريكا. أو إذا لا, إذا أنتم بلبنان ما كنتوا دارسين حقوق, رحتوا عملتوا JD and then فيكم تبلشوا LLM. Okay, بس لتفوتوا على LLM, you need a law degree, a prerequisite law degree. Usually LLM could be done within 1 year, and it is a full-time study as a student, and this would get you this would help you sit for the bar in certain states. So sometimes you need to ask before you go, so don't assume that all programs would get you to go for the bar. You need to ask ahead of time. You need to ask all of those questions so that you're sure this is the right program for you. If eventually your ultimate goal is for you to sit for a certain bar, okay? So for the LLM, you can go for the general LLM program, and some people would rather go for a specialty. Since you already have a Bachelor of Law in Lebanon, maybe if you go for a specialty, it would be better because you're gonna go and you get a specialization in certain topic, and that would be your focus later on. This is an extra program that you're doing. Why not go further in certain topic? So popular law specialties are intellectual property rights, information technology, human rights, and international law. But there are new things that are coming also. Cybersecurity law is something new, medical law, all of that. So just don't sometimes in Lebanon we go with whatever we know لأنه هيك بيكونوا قايلين لنا أو بيكونوا محل ما you're gonna practice eventually the law firm بيكونوا قايلين لكم اعملوا هيك لأنه هن معودين على هذا الموضوع. So what I would ask you is for you to question everything and for you to check what are other new specialties out there for you. مش بس انكم تكونوا عم تعملوا شيء already موجود. يمكن إذا you went to the US and you got something new, a new specialty and came back, that would give you kind of a niche بالcommunity. بس ترجعوا بصير عندكم your own business because of whatever زيادة تعلمتوه بأمريكا. So take this opportunity. إذا لحقتوا عم تروحوا على أمريكا وعم تسافروا على بلد جديد, why not discover something new, something منه موجود بلبنان, and then come back and help our community in a way with new ideas and new specialties. I just mentioned a few, بس في كتير أكتر. So the right place for you to look for what kind of specialties موجودين هو probably the LLM guide الموجود on this slide. So the llmguide.com/USA would have a lot of specialties, and for you to consider all of that, look for new ideas, look for things that are not common in Lebanon, for you to be unique in whatever you're going to go and learn and come back. Those are good resources for you, and those are really great websites. So I urge you to take the time. At this point, you can either take a screenshot or take a picture, and then later on, take the time to go through those websites, get familiar with those websites, and they have a lot of resources. I know it's a lot for you to read. You're gonna, if you're gonna go to the US and you're gonna study in the US, you're gonna learn to read quickly, and you're gonna learn to read fast, and you're gonna learn that you need to do a lot of reading. which I assume you're already familiar with in the bachelor degree of law in Lebanon. So I urge you to read those websites carefully, especially any website that has to do with admissions, with bar examiners, anything that would qualify you as أنتوا بحقلكم to practice or not in the US. You need to be very careful on those matters and read the text really carefully لتعرفوا if you qualify or not. Okay, we're gonna talk a bit about the LSAC and a bit about the National Conference of Bar Examiners. So those are two that will come up in the presentation, but the rest are things that I ask you to take the time to explore on your own, to read more about them. إذا بدكم تدرسوا بأمريكا, it's very important for you to start reading in English as well. أنا بعرف sometimes in Lebanon we're practicing in Arabic, so maybe كمان تعودوا حالكم شوي تقروا بالإنجليش. That would be very helpful as well. So for you to start with finding a school is for you to go through the websites. أهم website, I guess, is the Law School Admission Counselor. So this website, the lsac.org, you can go through this website, and I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna stop whatever I'm sharing right now. New share. Okay, so you can see at this point the Law School Admission Counselor. This is the website that you're gonna get when you go into the website that I mentioned. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna read very carefully. And if you scroll down, you can find if you're gonna go for JD or LLM or any kind of masters or any certificates. You can read further about each one. You can see, as you can see, you can compare programs. Like this one would take 3 years, this one would take 1 year, and so on. They have a lot of resources for you in terms of free tips. Why the US? Why law? Why all of this? And then they have further resources with COVID-19 and all the changes that are happening in the world and in the admission world these days. So it's very important that you read this website very carefully. And they have a lot of details in terms of if you want to apply to JD 1, 2, 3, those are the steps, this is a checklist, and so on. Same thing for LLM. And then you can also go for what are the programs. So if we're going to go for LLM, how you choose the right program for you, what's the right specialty for you, and so on. So you need to take the time to read all about this. You need to understand all of this before you even start applying and considering to apply. Okay, and there's like a list of law schools that are under the LSAC. So the LSAC is an organization in the US with law schools as members. So what would happen is you would go to the LSAC, create an account, and then submit kind of one form where you can submit your transcripts, your LSAT score, all the documents that are needed. And then you would specify that you need those documents to be sent to, let's say, 8 universities. The LSAC would take that and they would send it to those 8 universities. So they're kind of making your life easier, okay, in this sense. So this is, again, is a very important website that we recommend you check very carefully. So the other one would be the LLM guide that I mentioned before, and this is especially for LLM, so you can read more about any specialty, any program, you can go and dig deeper into that. This is very important for you to take the time, if you're gonna go for LLM, to read this website as well, to carefully examine which university you're interested in attending and read as much as possible about that. And then in the US, just for you to know what, the programs could be very different. So it can differ from one university to another. So there are over 200 ABA approved schools, law schools in the US. So you can imagine how different they could be. Each school is unique. Each program is unique if they have LLM or JD or SJD or so on. So I cannot just generalize and I cannot just simply say those are the rules. It's going to be different from one university to another, and we're going to talk a bit about the admission and the deadline, and that's also going to be different from one university to another. The other thing that might be different also is some programs would allow JD students to take courses with LLM, and this would actually enrich your network of people that you would get to know, and also enrich your kind of skills and things that you're learning from other people. So take that time whenever you're in the US to get to know people you're going to be studying with and eventually, hopefully, working with, because this would help you later on with networking and all of that. The other thing that we might not be used to is the uh, teaching method. So in Lebanon, I think, and sometimes our professors are more into lecturing or rulna, and that's it. Whereas in the US, they go with a Socratic method where they ask you to come up with your own questions. They ask you to read. They ask you to do readings at home and then come and discuss. So it's not like the professor is sitting there and lecturing you all the time. It's going to be more of a class discussion. They encourage you to ask. They sometimes even in Lebanon for like kids, sometimes when we have our own kid ببلش يسألنا الأسئلة why mom why and why بعد الثالثة بنقول له خلاص وقف. In the US they on the other side they encourage our kids to ask those why questions, and this is that Socratic method. Don't take anything for granted. حقكم تفهموا حقكم تسألوا أسئلة لحد ما توصلوا لمحل تقتنعوا, and they want you to question everything, especially in law, especially in the legal department. They want to make sure you're doing your best, you're getting the best interest of all parties, and you're making sure you ask the right questions. Okay. Do we have questions for now, or can I continue? If you have questions, just please write them in the chat box, and we'll. All right. So the application process, I cannot insist on the very first point. Start early. Start early. So sometimes in Lebanon we think of بس خلص هالديجري ببقى بفكر what's next. In the US it doesn't work this way. You need to start ahead of time. بدكم تبلشوا من هلا تحضروا إذا بدكم تفوتوا السنة الجاي, حتى في منكم تأخروا إذا ما already بلشتوا ب other things. So start as early as possible thinking of, okay, am I going to the US? Yes or no? If yes, what are the steps? شو هن exams that I need to take, and all of those questions. Ask and start early because you need to know that. A lot of universities would take only fall admissions, so be careful of that. So ما فيكم تقولوا إذا ما فتت بفول معناه بفوت بعدين بspring. كتير جامعات بس بياخدوا fall admissions and they go for one cycle 1 year. Okay. Some universities have deadlines. يعني بيقولوا we need all the documents by November 1. في deadlines as early as October 1. So keep that in mind. So بنكون قطعناها للسنة. So if the deadline is December 1 or November 1, whatever, that means it's a very strict deadline, meaning all the documents, they need to be submitted by that date. ما فيكم تقولوا it's okay, I will submit هالكم document وبضل عندي وحدة missing ما اللي بينطروا علي. ما في على لبناني. ما في بينطروا علي. An incomplete application is incomplete and they will not even check it. So make sure you are as organized as possible and you start early so that you submit everything on time. Okay. The other thing is the rolling admission concept. So some universities have the rolling admissions, meaning they will start accepting applications as early as August, and they would keep accepting applications لنقول June. But if they have this rolling admission مش يعني أنا بنطر لجون 2021 لأنا أقدم. Because behind cases, if they have rolling admissions, they are taking applications as they come. They are assessing applications. كل ما توصل لهم طلب عم بيقروها ويقرروا بدهم اياه ولا لا. يمكن المحلات بيكونوا خلصوا. The other thing is they might just have scholarships at the beginning of the year. So ببلشوا يوصل لهم طلبات and they start awarding scholarships and grants. By the time you submit your application مأخرين بحزيران بيكون too late. They already gave out all the scholarships and they don't have any scholarships left. Okay? That's why we say start early and apply early. Make sure you submit everything early. حنحكي a bit about all the documents that are needed, but I cannot insist more about be organized. أهم شيء بكل البروسيس هو to be organized. كل جامعة عندها different deadline. كل جامعة عندها different requirements. كل جامعة is very unique. So يمكن جامعة يكون بدها امتحان الجامعة الثانية ما بدها إياه. يمكن جامعة يكون عندها deadline الجامعة الثانية ما عندها deadline بهيك. يمكن الجامعة يكون عندها certain deadline لscholarships معينين. So you need to be very organized, not to miss any deadline, not to miss any any instruction طالبينه منكم, any test طالبينه منكم. So it's very important that you take the time to be organized, create whatever document بدكم إياها, an Excel sheet, whatever, put them on a Google map, a reminder, anything that would make sure everything is written and everything is organized, لأنه ما تنسوا ولا deadline ولا تروح عليكم any instructions, any test that you need to take. Okay? So in general, if you're gonna apply, those are the requirements. They might be different from one university to another, هحكي عنهم in a bit, but those are the general requirements. So if you're gonna apply using the LSAC website, which is a website that would make it easy for you to submit one application and they would send it to different universities, then you need to create an account and submit everything to LSAC, and then LSAC would submit it. But for you to do that, you need to make sure you are, again, organized, you have everything ready ahead of time, everything sent to LSAC ahead of time so that LSAC would send it on your behalf. Okay? Some people would want to go with the LSAC application. Some people would say, no, it's not worth it if I'm only applying to 1 or 2 universities. It's not worth it. I can do the work myself. So it's up to you. But if we would say if you're applying to more than 4 universities and they all use the LSAC website, go ahead and create one because it would make your life much easier. So بدل ما تقعدوا تعملوا الترانسكريبتس لكل الجامعات والألسات score والتوفل score, all of this, then you'll just simply submit it one time بمحل وبيوصل للجامعات كلهم بنفس الوقت. Okay? Leia, you have a question. Go ahead, please. You can unmute yourself if you feel comfortable with that, or just write it in the chat box. Does pursuing an LLM abroad makes us eligible to work abroad in legal field? So إذا عم تعملوا LLM بأمريكا, you might be eligible to work in certain. So مثل ما قلت بدكم تشوفوا كل state if you're eligible to work in that state or not. So you need to see if you're eligible to sit for the bar and then for you to be able to practice or not. So it's a requirement for you to know. It's a research that you need to do per state. And for that question, I would take you back to this website, which is the National Conference of Bar Examiners. This is the actual website that would help you decide if you can practice law in that state based on your LLM or if you need a JD for that. Okay, so this would be the right reference for you to check. And we ask you to check ahead of time. Don't assume that if I'm accepted to the LLM, that means I can actually just simply practice in that state. Assume nothing and just make sure you check before you even start your application to that university to make sure you can practice law later on in that state, okay? So for you to submit again, so if we're saying either using the LSAC website to submit your application or you're submitting your application through the university, what you can do is make sure again you're organized, make sure you have an account on that website and start doing the work ahead of time. You will need to also submit your transcripts. Aya, go ahead, either write it in the chat box and I'll get to your question in a bit, okay? So you need to submit your transcripts من لبنان. Sometimes, especially إذا أنتم دارسين بجامعة لبنانية French university, the grading system ما بيكون هالقد عادة بيكون مشحف بحق التلميذ. So sometimes بنشوف جامعة لبنانية your transcript is 60 out of 100. 60 لحدا من جامعة لبنانية is a really good score, whereas 60 لحدا من جامعة بأمريكا بقول it's almost a failing grade. So it could be, it's really important for you to do the right evaluation credentials. So we ask you to look into this, either do it through the LSAC website where like they take your transcript and they kind of explain it and kind of give the proper credentials, credential evaluation, وبيبعتون للجامعات on your behalf, and this would really help you and help your profile. So بدل ما تكون a student average لأنه الجامعات بأمريكا شايفين 60 kind of if you do this step even if this would mean إنه حتدفعكم شوي زيادة الألساك عليها بس this is a very good investment on the long run because بدل ما تكون an average student بالنسبة للأمريكان عم تصير an excellent student based on that kind of evaluation. The other thing might be the LSAC. If you're going for the JD, then the LSAT test is required. If you're going for the LLMs, some universities might not even ask you for the LSAT test. Okay, they will ask sometimes for the English proficiency test, which could be a TOEFL score or an IELTS score. So it's either or, depending on what the university prefers. Sometimes you would need to submit that. Okay, so بما انه especially اذا انتم عم تتخرجوا من جامعات ما تعلمتوا فيها بالانجلش then definitely you are required to prove your English proficiency test. Some universities might waive that requirement بيقولوا لكم ما بدكم توفل اذا انتم already قدمتوا الالسات test لانه for you to sit for the LSAT ولا تقدروا تفهموا التست وتعملوا معناتها you already have the English proficiency level. Okay, then they would need letters of recommendation and it's very important for you to think thoroughly مين حتنقوا ليكون your recommender. So يمكن تقولوا okay I want a professor أو يمكن أنتوا بلشتوا تشتغلوا and you want المحامي اللي عم تتدرجوا عنده أو a colleague or something like that. Think really well who are you putting as your recommender. You want to put someone who really knows you very well. So ما عم تحكي على حدا بيعرف بيي ورحت عملت عنده internship 5 أيام وما بيعرفني بده يكتب عنكم letter of recommendation. That's not really a good letter of recommendation. We prefer some universities بيكونوا واضحين شو بدهم بيقولوا لكم بدنا واحد من professor وواحد from a work environment. Some others they don't have those kind of requirements so just say بدنا نقول 2 letters of recommendation. So it's up to you to decide who's going to be your recommender. But we ask you to pick professors اللي بيعرفوكم really well. Professors اللي بيعرفوا what kind of student you are, what do you do outside of class, what kind of involvement you are involved in. Sometimes as a title recommended a copy of your CV, this would help them write a good letter of recommendation. وإذا عندكم 2 recommendation letter, try to give different ideas ما يكونوا same thing يعني ما يكون عم يحكي عن نفس ال project اللي اشتغلتوا عليه اثنيناتهم عم يحكوا عن نفس ال project. Okay, and then I think the next is the most important step throughout the application, which is the essay, the personal statement. Why you want to study in the US, why you want to go for LLM, or why you want to go for JD in the US in this particular university. So for you to write this, one, you need to get to know yourself more. What is ultimately your career goal? Think about 5 or 10 years from now, what do you want to do? And try to write that. The other thing is why you decided on an LLM or JD. The other thing is why did you decide on this university? So في part من هيدا الاساي that could be submitted to different universities بس آخر part اللي عم نحكي why this university, this should be tailored لكل جامعة شيء. So ما فيكم تحطوا نفس الكلمات عن كل الجامعات. كل جامعة is different. كل جامعة especially law school كل جامعة is different in their mission. So the more you do research about that university, the better you'll be able to write those personal statements and the better you'll be able to match yourself وتقدروا تقنعوا الجامعة ليش انتوا عن جد حتكونوا a good addition على هيدا الجامعة and ليش هيدي الجامعة كتير منيحة لإلكم. Okay, so كل ما تعملوا أكتر research كل ما يكون أحسن لإلكم. If you already started working, it's always advised for you to submit a resume, meaning a CV. قد ما فيكم تحطوا فيه معلومات عن what kind of internships عم تعملوا، كيف عم تتدرجوا بأي مكتب حقوق، what kind of projects you took, what kind of وشو دارسين من قبل and all of that. So try to be as detailed as possible إذا ما كان في word limit. Okay, and the final step is a lot of US law schools are asking for you to sit for an interview. One, through the interview, they would see your English proficiency level. 2, they would see if you're ready, if you know what does that degree entitles, and if you know what does it mean for you to study in the US for a law. Okay, so for you to prepare for the law, for the interview, you need to be ready to answer the questions of why this university, why this degree, are you ready, did you check for the bar exams or not. So kind of show them that you've done your research وعارفين حالكم شو بدكم تعملوا ما تروحوا على الانترفيو ما تكونوا محضرين. Okay, Don't panic if they didn't ask you for an interview. It might just simply be, this university does not have an interview required. Some others might have. Okay. So for the testing قلنا لازم ممكن تاخدوا التوفل حسب the program that you're going for. If you're going for the TOEFL, you need to sit for the internet-based test, IBT test, and it covers reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and you can register online على ets.org/TOEFL. So usually the scores are over 120. For law schools, they usually ask for 100 plus or minus, but they are pretty clear about the score they need. So they say a minimum of 100, let's say. So if you need to have 100, okay? There's also the IELTS test that is an equivalent test for the TOEFL, so it's either or sometimes. Again, same things, listening, reading, writing, and speaking. بتسجلوا له على ets.org and you do it as well, okay? The other thing that I would share with you is the LSAT practice test. If you're gonna go with a JD, sorry, if you're gonna go with a JD degree, you will need the LSAT test. And the LSAC have put together practice tests to help you prepare. So those are really important set of practice tests that you can prepare at home. And this would help you be ready for the actual LSAT test. Okay, you can take the LSAT test at AMIDEAST. If you have questions about that, you can register for it online, but you can take it at AMIDEAST. Okay. There's also the Khan Academy official LSAT practice test, which if you look for it, they can give you certain skills, and then later on each day they can give you practice tips or practice sample test or things like that, and they would go up to your level. So if you are good enough, they would kind of يصعبوها شوي عليكم بالامتحان اللي بعده and so on, so that they can get you ready for the actual test. اللي هقولكم اياه بس انه الالسات test that you need to take is when you need to submit your scores, they would submit everything, all the tests that you've done. So ما تقعدوا تجربوا بالاكتوال تيست الحقيقي. اول شيء بكلف مصاري، ثاني شيء انه بس تقدموا على الجامعات بينبعت all the official tests that you've taken. So ما بدكم تكونوا عندكم a really low LSAT test بس لانه انتم كنتوا عم تجربوا. So practice as much as you want online على الخان Academy, على free resources that are available. But when you're 100% ready and when you're consistent بالسكور اللي عم تجيبوه, then you actually take the LSAT test. And there's also the law school forum واللي هو على الألساك website, where certain universities بيكونوا available for discussions. You go, it's like kind of an open house style where you can go ask questions. Especially هلا everyone is doing virtual work, so you'll be able to see admission counselors, تحكوا معهم, تسألون عن الجامعة, تسألون عن requirements, تسألون what are the changes they have because of the COVID-19 and all what is happening in the world, and إذا في شيء تغير, إذا في شيء, how to make your application a better application. And also you'll be able to connect مع students who are already studying in the US. If you have questions, they'll be able to answer all of those questions, kind of an informal way for you to get the information you need. So again, our top advice is for you to do the proper research. بنقول قدموا to 8 universities, but at this point, I'll be very honest, بلبنان, with all what's happening with the currency, بالعملة وبالdevaluation تبع الليرة, ما بعرف قديش فينا honestly نقدم على 8 جامعات, because it would cost you money تقدموا على كل جامعة. So من قبل كنا نقول قدموا على 8 جامعات, 2 that are dreams, 4 that are realistic, و2 that are safety. I don't know قديش you can apply to all of those. It depends on your own financial situation. إذا بتقدروا تقدموا على 8 جامعات ولا you want to cut it down to 4 universities. إذا عم تقدموا على 4, then بقولكم dream with 1, بس ما تكتروا الجامعات that are dream. عندنا بلبنان we have أزمة كل التلاميذ بدها تروح على top universities, بس I guess top universities بأمريكا, their acceptance rate are scary. So sometimes بيكون the acceptance rate is 4% or 3%. So sometimes have a realistic point of view عن قديش انتوا عن جد you are good enough لتنقبلوا بهول الجامعات or not. كونوا شوي صارمين مع حالكم وقولوا لا أنا ما رح أنقبل هون سو معلي خليني ما أقدم بمحل تاني more realistic ليكون عندي a chance for me to be accepted بجامعة بأمريكا. The other tip that I would give you is definitely give yourself enough time. حضروا للامتحانات، حضروا للتوفل، حضروا للألسات قبل ما تاخدون هول exams. Apply to different universities in variety of selectivity حكينا عنها، so ما تقدموا كلهم top universities. Have different universities when you're thinking of applying. The other thing is have consistency in your version of your name. So a lot of times, if you have a passport, let it match the passport. Our issue sometimes especially with the family names العيال بس يكون لنقول اسمي دانا صالح لنقول دانا صالح أو صالح. The way you write your name is different. أو دانا بو صالح أو دانا أبو صالح أو دانا أبي صالح. So this confusion might confuse American readers, admission officers اللي عم بيقروا الطلب ليعرفوا إذا those documents belong to the same person or not. So إذا عندكم باسبور خلوا all the documents من الألسات للapplication, للrecommendation letter, للtranscripts كلهم يكونوا consistent with the same version of your name. I said it before برجع بقولها double check deadlines, be organized, follow instructions and make sure you submit everything ahead of time. Unfortunately, we live in a country where everything might just be up in the air in the last minute. So ما تنطروا لآخر لحظة to submit your application. ممكن تنقطع الكهرباء، ممكن تروح الإنترنت or any other thing. So set deadlines شوي ahead of time. ما تنطروا لآخر نهار to submit قبل بأسبوع. In case صار في شيء غلط بكون معكم وقت تصلحوها. Okay. Other funding, external fundings or internal fundings. So as I said before, sometimes you are recommended to submit early. The earlier you can submit your application, the better, especially if the university offers scholarships. So if you submit your application in October, then the admission officers still have money and they'll be generous. كل ما تطولوا كل ما يقل المصاري معهم ويبلشوا يقولوا خليني أوفر شوي مصاري. So as soon as you know and you are ready to submit your application, go ahead and submit it. The scholarships might be internal مثل الجامعة يكون عندها their own scholarships or certain grants, or sometimes it could be fellowships. So it depends. Those are usually things that like grants given to you with nothing in return. So مش ناطرين إنه أنتوا تشتغلوا or something in return. Holy grants and scholarships لكم. Fellowships, sometimes they might require you to do some kind of research or some kind of contribution. Sometimes it's completely for free. And then there are external scholarships. So the one that I can recommend is the Fulbright Scholarship من قبل السفارة الأمريكية بلبنان وأميديست. We usually recruit for this scholarship around February, so I would advise you to reach out to us in February. So the Fulbright Scholarship مثلا covers full tuition, full living expenses, السفرة على أمريكا، الكتب، الانشورنس, everything. So this is a very prestigious scholarship that we definitely recommend that you apply to. And then there are other things, other external scholarships. Sometimes you can look at the website of the university you're interested in, and they can link certain scholarships. Certain scholarships might be because of the specialty you're going into that might be interesting. Certain foundations are funding it or so on. So ما تيأسوا ما تقولوا oh ما رح لاقي funding. لا، إذا بتعملوا the right research you'll be able to find the right proper funding for your program. Okay. So you can register or you can take the LSAT at AMIDEAST. إذا عندكم problem باللغة الإنجليزية you can take TOEFL tests, TOEFL courses at AMIDEAST. We can help you to improve your English and to be ready to take the test. حكينا عن scholarship. One of them is the Fulbright, which is a scholarship من قبل السفارة الأمريكية بس هي موجودة. AMIDEAST administers that scholarship. So this could be something that we can help you with. And then, as I said in the beginning, we will be working with Sader Legal to come up with further webinars مع جامعات بأمريكا to help you know more about applying to the US, about their own programs and so on. So those kind of services, extra free services that we can offer as well. If you're interested, إذا بدكم later on, you can take an appointment with me, one-on-one consultation, and I can get to see your profile as a student and what are the universities you're considering and so on. Hopefully, I can also connect you with Lebanese students who are studying at those universities so that they can give you a better idea of if this is the right program for you or not, or what kind of program you should pursue, and so on.
سوري سؤال بس.
Go ahead.
ال SAT هو ذاته ال SAT أو غير؟
No, SAT is math and English test, and it is for the undergraduate admissions. So إذا بدك تفوت على ال bachelor degree from the high school, you take the SAT. So إذا عم تاخد LSAT or LSAT, that's only for law. So it's a test for law. So for you to know more about the LSAT, I'll share my screen. So if you go here, this is the LSAC website, and somewhere for some reason ما بقى عم بيطلع قدامي Can someone see it؟ ما عم بقشع بس في محل على الويب سايت بيقول لك LSAC.
Okay, thank you.
خلي هون okay. I'm sorry. Okay, so you can see here at the top of the website في عندك the LSAT, and if you go you can read more about the test, how to register for it, the dates that you can take, and all of those, and you can see free samples so you can know more about the SAT, about the writing component, about the scores, and so on. So the scores is a range of 120 being the least you can get, and 180 is the highest you can get. So this is basically it, okay? But I urge you to read more about it, get to know more before you even start. Those are the extra resources, the sample test that you can, practice before you even take the official test, okay? So my final slides are just simply to follow us on Facebook and social media so that in case we have any upcoming sessions with US universities, for you to know more about how to apply to the US, you can do that. So it's at EducationUSA Lebanon for Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And then here's my contact info in case you want to take an appointment. Call me to just book a consultation one-on-one, and we can meet and talk more about that. Anything else?
أنا بدي أقول لك thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Really, يعني أنا with all the experience I have أعطيتيني كتير أفكار. بدي أقول لك thank you so much for all what you're doing. Exceptional information. بعتقد كل اللي سمعوك يستفيدوا كتير. And as Sadir and Unipro, we would like to have you more often. Hopefully you will.
I will,
so
anytime. Thank you for your time, and thank you for everyone who joined today. I want to thank Sadir and Unipro and عن جد what they're doing, giving access for students, for international students. This is definitely the American way of doing it, and we love that. Thank you so much for giving access to students for all the information they are and for connecting us with them. Again, thank you for being with me, and you have my contact info if you want to reach out for personal one-on-one consultations. Thank you and have a good evening. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.